Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. As you might see behind, I've been trying to sort out my shoes. I've got some new shelves, got a set there, and I've got another set over there. But I won't be talking too much about shoes today. Now, as you may remember, back in September, I tore my calf in a 1500-meter race and had a few months off, obviously, and I've been slowly trying to get back to fitness. So what I thought I would do is have a look at some of the training metrics on the various websites that I use, like Garmin, Strava, Training Peak, stuff like that, to see whether I'm actually making any progress and to see how I'm sort of comparing now to what I was before then. So let's step aside to the computer. So first of all, I go to my own page on Runbritain Rankings, which is one of the sites I run along with Power 10. So this basically shows all my distance races, and this handicap progress graph here gives an overview of basically how well I'm doing in races over the years. And obviously it's been a bit challenging recently because there haven't been any, or not too many, but what's here is interesting that in the most recent times I was my fittest in races, doing the best in July 2019. If you click these little headers here, you can minimize them. So if we go then down to performances, and if I sort them by date, then you can see in the middle of 2019 I've done a 10k in 37:37 and a park run or 5k in 17:57, which is about the best I've done for those distances in recent times. And then not long after, I had a good 10-mile race at the Great South Run, 61:40, and then I had my marathon 2:56 in February, and then some track races in the back end of the summer. So if you go back to a view where I'm showing the performances and the graph, and then you can see here in July 2019, corresponding to these decent races around here, I was still holding it reasonably well for my marathon in February, and then a few track races made a marginal improvement. Obviously, as I haven't raced since September, this isn't telling me anything about my current fitness. So this is now the Strava Training Log. So in August last year, I was doing quite a lot of training, about 8 hours a week. I had a bit of a lull before the track races to get a bit sharper, and I had a bit of a niggle. So the time went down a bit. And then I had the calf tear on this one here on the 26th of September, and then basically didn't really train at all for a couple of weeks. And I got back on the bike a bit and slowly built it up until my first run was around about mid-November time. I was able then to get out for a 5.4k, or how much did I do there? Half an hour run on my birthday. And then I've been slowly building it up. So a combination of bike and run. I started doing more running after Christmas. So here you can see that I'm sort of, in terms of hours done, I'm sort of more or less back to what I was in August, maybe a bit less on mileage. If you flick this over to mileage, then you see I managed to actually do just over 50 miles last week. I'm a bit low this week. Was on the bike on Monday, had a rest day today. But then I've been sort of in the 40s the last few weeks before that. And then, it has been slowly building it up from there when I wasn't doing anything at all. So if we look at the Strava fitness and freshness graph, we can see clearly here had this dip in September and October when I basically wasn't training at all. My fitness went right down. But the good news is it seems to have been rising slowly ever since. I'm now up to 57 there, which was just above what it was when I actually had the injury. So I think this Strava fitness and freshness graph is largely heavily dependent on the volume of training that you're doing, because it's interesting to see that my highest fitness level supposedly was just before my Seville Marathon last February, which is good in a way, but it wasn't quite as high when I was doing those actually what I considered probably better performances in July 2019. And also had some good track races at the back end of last summer before I got injured. But I think by then, because I'd actually tapered down a bit for those races, and then you obviously can't run the same volume when you're doing short distance track races, my actual Strava fitness had gone down, but my race output had clearly gone up. So it's not necessarily an indication of exactly how well you're going to do in a race, but you definitely see some correlations here. So this is a very similar graph on Training Peaks, and I think it shows a broadly similar thing. So this dip here in October was when it was obviously injured, and it's been rising slowly since, and it's about now returned to roughly where it was when I got injured. But then when I actually finished the sort of almost the summer training for those late season track races, I actually hit a peak there in about August, and then it's had a few races, went down a bit through not doing so much volume, and obviously got the injury. And then it was also very high, just like the Strava one, in the lead up to my marathon, which kind of hopefully shows I was doing the right thing in terms of these metrics. And if we scroll back to last summer, Also had a mini peak there around about those races, and then it sort of dipped off a bit. I think I had a bit of a break from the volume, and then I started to build up the mileage again for the marathon training. So you definitely can see the elements of the phases in your training where the things are going up and down. So it's a pretty good way of seeing how well you're doing, I think. Another one here is the Garmin VO2 Max on my Forerunner. Now, what you can quite clearly see here in October that my VO2 Max went right down, basically was hardly training at all. So it had been around about 60, 61, 62, and it plummeted as low as 49. I started to get back on the bike, and then I got a bit of VO2 Max on the bike, but for some reason I never got my VO2 Max overly high on the bike. I think that's partly because I'm a better runner than a cyclist. But my VO2 max on the bike was never that as low compared to my biking, so that's interesting in itself. But you can see already that I've restored most of my fitness according to the VO max. I'm currently on 59 as against a peak of 62 last year. And I was 61 for the marathon, so pretty constant when you're actually continuing the training. And this is how it was in basically 2019, so pretty similar. I think a gap there, maybe just didn't have the data for a while. And yeah, it's fairly similar in it, 61, 62. This is how it was in 2018 when I was doing a bit more cycling there. You can see that the cycle number is a bit lower than the running one, but a lot closer to than it is at the moment. And if I go right back to 2017, when I was kind of injured with running with an Achilles injury, I spent basically the summer cycling and doing time trials and stuff. You can see interestingly here that my cycling VO2 max was definitely a lot higher than my running VO2 max. I was doing a bit of running, like once or twice a week, but clearly when I was getting on the bike, I was doing far better in aerobic conditioning point of view than I was running. So it's interesting actually that when the focus was on the cycling, I was doing better at cycling, and when the focus was on the running, more like these days, then the running's better. So just because kind of show that cross training is good, but to be good at one or the other, you really need to focus on that one in particular, I think. So another measure of fitness is the Stryd and its critical power value, which are these green and red dots here going up and down. And also this graph here is a running stress graph. So this white line here is basically an indication of how much training I'm doing, essentially. And as you can see that when I had my injury, I wasn't obviously doing any. And then as I'm doing it now, it's going up again. It's kind of quite difficult to see, but the Strava CP value is kind of an indication of your sort of threshold level of fitness. So if you do a 5K, it's quite a good indicator of what that's going to give you. Now, I think my typical values that I got when it wasn't a dodgy one was around about in the sort of the 320s, I think, something like that. So my current critical power is 300 watts, so I'm obviously a bit lower than I was, but it's not really surprising considering I'm building back up fitness. So another more practical indication of fitness is actually to look at some actual races or time trials. What you're seeing here is actually 4 5K Zwift time trials I did on my treadmill. So you can see the first one I did on 9th of December, I was just outside 20 minutes, and I've been improving steadily since. So the one I did the other day was the fastest of the lot, 1909. So I've improved a whole minute within 6 weeks, which is quite encouraging. I've got a whole another minute more and a bit more to go until I actually get back to where I was about a year ago before the Seville. I did a 17:59 park run on Christmas Day 2019. But yeah, it's encouraging. It's going the right way. Looks from the heart rates there and the cadences that it was all pretty similar effort. I was just going faster. So that's good. So what are my plans for the next few weeks and months? Well, I'm trying to sort of get some organised coaching done, see if I can get a few bit of help in terms of what I need to do. Because I think, although I'm pretty experienced as a runner, I've been doing it the best part of 40 years, I think sometimes having a second eye over something would be good. So I'm trying to investigate that, but I'm just also trying to just slowly increase my fitness anyway by building up the miles. As you see there, I did 50 miles last week, and then I'm probably be a bit short this week, but we're trying to do sort of we're trying to do some quality sessions in there with some easy mileage as well. What I'm probably lacking at the moment is just sort of some long runs, but with lockdown, it's obviously difficult anyway. So any way that you can actually get out for a run or get on Zwift is it's got to be good, and it's not great weather anyway, is it? So yeah, I've got an entry for the London Marathon in the autumn if it happens, but I'm not entirely sure whether I want to do it because I had a good for age place from Seville. I thought I'd better enter just in case, but I'll see how the next few months go and how the general situation is, because I think you need some targets, but at the moment it's very difficult to set a target because you can't really enter any races because there aren't any. So yeah, time trials are good, but they do sort of drag on a bit after a while, and you start to wonder what you're training for. But I do have a sort of a
inkling to see whether I could ever get down to beat my heart run PB, which is a slightly annoying 17 minutes dead I did back in 2013. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to find the best part of a minute, even what I was. So I need to improve basically 2 minutes and more to get back there. But it's a thing I'm thinking about. Could I give that a proper go and see how fast I can get? Even if I sort of get back down to sort of 17 minutes something, it will be a good achievement, I think. And also I've got that 400-meter project still outstanding. Didn't quite break the 60 seconds there. I've got 62. So plenty of things to keep me amusing, all the way from 400 meters up to the marathon, and plenty in between. So I hope you found this little look at my current state of play interesting, and look forward to seeing the next one then. Bye.